The gleaming corridors of Unity Station hummed with the usual mix of alien voices and mechanical sounds. James Walker stood at his post in the Terran embassy, straightening his formal diplomatic uniform for the third time that morning. At 32 years old, he was one of the youngest human diplomats stationed on the massive space station, though that wasn't saying much given how new humanity was to the galactic stage. The station's announcement system crackled to life, its artificial voice echoing through the halls in multiple languages. Attention all station residents and visitors. A diplomatic vessel from the Stellar Dominion will be docking in 10 minutes. Please clear all main corridors in Sector 7. James checked his tablet, confirming that he would be part of the welcoming committee. As a junior diplomat, he usually handled minor trade disputes and cultural exchanges. Today was different. The Stellar Dominion was among the oldest and most powerful civilizations in known space. The docking bay's massive doors slid open with a soft hiss. The Dominion's ship gleamed like polished silver, its organic curves making it look more like a massive sea creature than a spacecraft. James stood at attention alongside the other diplomatic representatives, trying not to fidget as the ship's boarding ramp extended. The first beings to emerge were the Dominion's guards, their crystalline armor catching the station's lights. Behind them came the diplomatic party, led by an imposing figure that made James blink in surprise. She was tall, perhaps 7 feet, with skin that seemed to shift colors like an opal. Her eyes were large and completely golden, without pupils or irises. But what struck James most was the way she moved, with a grace that seemed almost impossible given her height. This was Lady Red, the famous Dominion diplomat whose name came from the striking crimson markings that spiraled across her face and neck. The station's governor, a bulbous creature from the mercantile worlds, stepped forward to make introductions. James waited patiently as each member of the welcoming committee was presented. When his turn came, he bowed respectfully. James Walker, junior diplomat of the Terran embassy, the governor announced. Lady Red's golden eyes fixed on him. The smooth flow of introductions stuttered to a halt as she stepped closer, her head tilting slightly to one side. The other aliens in the room began to shift uncomfortably. "Fascinating," she said, her translator rendering her musical language into standard English. "Truly fascinating." James maintained his diplomatic smile, though his heart was racing. He'd been briefed about the Dominion's ability to see things others couldn't, but he'd never expected to be the focus of such attention. "Is something wrong, Lady Red?" the governor asked, his translator struggling to hide his concern. "Wrong." Lady Red's color-shifting skin rippled with what James would later learn was amusement. "No, nothing is wrong. Quite the opposite." She turned to address the governor directly. "I wish to have this human assigned as my liaison during my stay." The governor's appendages writhed in obvious distress. "But, Lady Red, surely one of our more experienced diplomats would be better suited." "I have made my choice," Lady Red said, her tone making it clear the matter was settled. She turned back to James, who fought the urge to step backward. "Tell me, James Walker, what do you know of the Dominion's genetic site?" "Only what's in our briefing materials," James replied carefully. "That your people can see patterns others cannot." Lady Red made a sound like chiming bells. A laugh, James realized. "That is a very simplified explanation. Perhaps during my stay, you will learn more." She gestured to her attendants, who began moving toward the prepared diplomatic quarters. Before following them, she paused beside James. "I look forward to our future conversations." As she glided away, James became aware of the other aliens staring at him with a mixture of confusion, concern, and in some cases, what appeared to be fear. Whatever Lady Red had seen in him, it was clearly something significant. The governor pulled him aside as the crowd began to disperse. "Watch yourself carefully, human," he whispered. "When the Dominion shows interest in something, it usually changes the galaxy." James watched Lady Red's retreating form, wondering what exactly he had gotten himself into. 3 days after Lady Red's arrival, James found himself at the center of an interstellar controversy. The station's communal dining area buzzed with whispers whenever he passed, and alien diplomats who once ignored him now watched his every move with obvious interest. He sat at his desk in the Terran embassy, reviewing the latest batch of formal inquiries about him. Lady Red had been thorough. She'd requested his complete medical history, genetic profile, educational records, and even his family tree going back 4 generations. All through proper diplomatic channels, of course. "You've caused quite a stir," said Tom, his direct supervisor, walking into the office. The older diplomat dropped a data tablet on James's desk. "The mercantile world's representatives just filed their 3rd complaint about Lady Red's interest in you. They're claiming it's an insult to their species." James rubbed his temples. "I haven't even done anything. I've just attended the scheduled meetings and answered her questions." "That's exactly the problem," Tom said, leaning against the desk. "She's asking questions about you instead of discussing trade agreements." The mercantile world spent years arranging this visit. A soft chime interrupted them. Another message notification. This one was from the Stellar Dominion's own delegation, marked as urgent. James opened it, then frowned. "They're requesting that I attend a private dinner with Lady Red tonight," he said. "In her personal quarters." Tom whistled. "Well, that's going to set off another round of complaints." He paused, studying James's face. "You know you can refuse, right? No one would blame you for keeping your distance from this situation." Before James could respond, the office door slid open again. A tall insectoid being entered, one of the Dominion's advisors. Its metallic exoskeleton clicked as it approached their desks. "Mr. Walker," it said, mandibles moving in time with the translated words. "I must speak with you about Lady Red's interest." James gestured to an empty chair. "Please, Advisor Shell, have a seat." The advisor remained standing. "This is a matter of some delicacy. Lady Red's behavior is causing concern among our people. You must understand, humans are considered." It paused, seemingly searching for a diplomatic word. "Underdeveloped. Primitive, you mean," James said flatly. "Your species only achieved spaceflight a century ago," Shell continued. "You have no genetic enhancements, no biological improvements. Your lifespans are brief, your physical capabilities limited." The advisor's antennae twitched. "Lady Red's attention to you is being seen as inappropriate." Tom stood up straighter, diplomatic training kicking in. The Terran Alliance might take offense at such characterizations of our species. Shell's mandibles clicked rapidly, their equivalent of a dismissive gesture. "Facts are not offensive, they are merely facts. We have existed as a spacefaring civilization for 50,000 of your years. We have guided the development of dozens of species." The advisor turned back to James. "Lady Red's position requires her to make advantageous connections. Her interest in you can only damage her standing." James kept his voice level, though his hands had clenched into fists under his desk. "Have you expressed these concerns to Lady Red?" "Many times," Shell said. "She remains obstinate. That is why I came to you directly. If you were to decline her invitation tonight, to create some distance—" "I will not," James interrupted, surprising himself with his firmness. "Lady Red is an official representative of the Stellar Dominion. Refusing her invitation would be diplomatically inappropriate." Shell's antennae went rigid. "You risk creating an interstellar incident." "No," James said, standing up. "You're trying to prevent one. There's a difference." He picked up the dinner invitation. "Please inform Lady Red that I would be honored to accept her invitation." The advisor's metallic carapace reflected the office lights as it turned to leave. At the door, it paused. "You cannot possibly understand what you're involving yourself in, human. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed." After Shell left, Tom let out a long breath. "Well, that was interesting. You sure about this, James?" James looked down at the invitation, remembering the intensity in Lady Red's golden eyes when she'd first seen him. "No," he admitted. But I think I need to find out why she's so interested in humanity. Don't you? Tom nodded slowly. Just be careful. Like our friend Shell said, some doors can't be closed once they're opened. Lady Red's private quarters were unlike anything James had ever seen. The walls seemed alive, shifting with subtle patterns of light that mimicked the color changes of her skin. The furniture was organic, growing seamlessly from the floor, and the air carried a sweet scent that reminded him of summer flowers. Please, sit. Lady Red gestured to what appeared to be a living chair. As James settled into it, the surface adjusted to perfectly fit his form. A floating tray brought them drinks in crystalline containers. Lady Red's was a swirling metallic liquid, while James appeared to be earth wine. You're wondering why I chose you, she said, not a question but a statement. Her golden eyes studied him with that same intense focus from their first meeting. The thought had crossed my mind, James admitted. Your advisor made it clear that I'm considered beneath your station. Lady Red made that chiming laugh again. Shell is dedicated to tradition. But tradition isn't always right. She leaned forward, her opalescent skin rippling with patterns. What do you know about my species' evolution? Very little, James said. Your records are mostly classified. We evolved as symbiotic beings, she explained. In our earliest form, we could see the genetic potential in other species, which ones would make good partners, which ones carried beneficial traits. She gestured, and the walls changed to show moving images of DNA strands. This ability helped us survive, then thrive, then eventually reach the stars. James watched the DNA patterns swirl across the walls. You can still see this genetic potential. Yes, and humans. Lady Red's skin flickered with excitement. Humans are extraordinary. Your DNA contains possibilities I've never seen before. It's like looking at a living galaxy of potential. She stood and moved closer to James. When I look at you, I see patterns that shouldn't be possible. Your species can adapt to almost anything. You survive conditions that should kill you. You learn and change faster than any species we've encountered. Is that why the Dominion has been watching us? James asked, pieces falling into place. Yes, we've been observing humanity since you first reached your moon. We expected you to destroy yourselves like so many young species do. Instead, you kept surprising us. She touched the wall, and it showed images of human history. Disasters, wars, triumphs. Every time you faced extinction, you adapted. Every challenge made you stronger. James took a sip of his wine, trying to process this information. But why me specifically? Lady Red's skin rippled with colors he'd never seen before. Because your pattern is the strongest I've ever seen. Your genetic structure shows potential for adaptations that even we don't understand. She moved closer, her presence making the air tingle with energy. In all our history, we've never seen anything like it. That's why everyone's so worried, James realized. They're not concerned about you choosing someone beneath you. They're afraid of what it means that humans have this potential. Precisely. Lady Red settled back in her chair. Think about it, James. My people have guided galactic civilization for 50,000 years because we could see which species would become strong allies. Now we found a species with more potential than any we've encountered, and they achieved spaceflight in a fraction of the time it took others. The implications made James's head spin. You think humanity might surpass the Dominion? I think, Lady Red said carefully, that together, our species could achieve things neither of us could imagine alone. Her golden eyes fixed on him. That's why I chose you, James Walker. Not just because of your genetic potential, but because you're in a position to help bridge our worlds. James looked at his reflection in the wine glass, wondering if he appeared any different knowing what Lady Red could see in him. What happens now? That depends on you, she said softly. I've broken many protocols just telling you this. What you do with this knowledge is your choice. The weight of the moment settled over James like a physical thing. In this room, right now, He was making decisions that could affect the future of human-alien relations forever. "Tell me more," he said finally. "Tell me everything." The news spread through Unity Station like a shockwave. Within hours of James leaving Lady Red's quarters, every major species had filed formal protests with both the Terran embassy and the Dominion delegation. James stood before the station's emergency council meeting, surrounded by representatives from 24 spacefaring civilizations. The chamber's tiered seating rose around him like an amphitheater, filled with beings of all shapes and sizes, all focused intently on him. "This is unprecedented," declared the Mercantile World's ambassador, his translucent body pulsing with agitation. A Dominion noble sharing classified genetic insights with a lesser species. "The term lesser species is not diplomatic language," Tom interrupted from his seat beside James. "The Terran Alliance objects to such characterization." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices and translator signals. Above the chaos, a deep resonating tone called for order. The station governor's massive form shifted as he activated the central platform's privacy field, creating a quiet bubble around the main speakers. "Lady Red," the governor's translated voice rumbled, "explain your actions to this council." She stood gracefully, her skin rippling with colors that seemed to command attention. "I shared what I deemed necessary for initiating formal diplomatic relations between our peoples. Nothing more. You revealed secrets our species has guarded for millennia." Shell's metallic body clicked in agitation. "The council demands to know why." "Because change is coming," Lady Red said simply. "I saw it in their patterns. Humanity will reshape this galaxy whether we guide them or not. I chose to build bridges rather than walls." A representative of the Science Collective, their crystalline body refracting light across the chamber, spoke next. "We demand access to human genetic data to verify these claims." "Absolutely not," Tom said firmly. "Human genetic information is protected under multiple treaties." The chamber erupted again. James watched as alliances that had stood for centuries began to fracture. Some species were calling for humanity to be quarantined. Others were already trying to establish private diplomatic channels with Earth. "Enough." The governor's voice cut through the chaos. "We will address this systematically. First, Lady Red, the Dominion Council has sent their decision regarding your actions." Lady Red's skin dimmed slightly, but she held her head high. "I am aware of their decision." "You have been stripped of your diplomatic rank and title," the governor announced. "You are ordered to return to Dominion space immediately." James felt his heart sink, but before he could speak, Lady Red laughed, that beautiful chiming sound that seemed to capture everyone's attention. "The council's decision was expected," she said, "but they cannot undo what has been done. The truth about humanity's potential is known now. Look at how this knowledge alone has shifted the balance of power in this room." She was right, James realized. Even as some species recoiled from humanity in fear, others were already calculating the advantages of alliance. The political landscape of known space was changing before his eyes. "This is bigger than titles or ranks," Lady Red continued. "We stand at a crossroads. Humanity will continue to evolve and adapt. They will continue to surprise us. We can either embrace this change or be left behind by it." The chamber fell silent as her words sank in. James saw the fear in some faces, the calculation in others, and in a few, the beginning of understanding. The Science Collective representative spoke again, their crystalline form gleaming. "Perhaps we should consider establishing a joint research initiative. To better understand these genetic patterns Lady Red speaks of. The mercantile worlds would be interested in expanding trade agreements," another voice called out. As more voices joined in, James caught Lady Red's eye. She gave him a subtle nod, and he understood. This chaos, this reshuffling of alliances, had been part of her plan all along. The governor raised his appendages for silence. "It seems we have much to discuss. This council will recess for 1 hour while we consult with our governments." As the privacy field dropped and the chamber began to empty, James heard snippets of urgent conversations in dozens of languages. Whatever happened next, the galaxy's political landscape had changed forever, and humanity was now at the center of it all. 2 weeks after the council meeting, James found himself in the station's observation dome. The vast window showed the swirling colors of a nearby nebula, its gases illuminated by distant stars. Lady Red stood beside him, her former title stripped but her presence still commanding. "The Dominion ship arrives tomorrow," she said softly. "They're sending an escort to ensure I return home." James watched the play of nebula light across her opalescent skin. "And if you don't want to go?" "That would be unprecedented," she said, turning to face him. "No member of the Dominion has ever chosen exile, especially not for—" She paused, her golden eyes meeting his. "Personal reasons." The observation dome was empty except for them. Most station residents were still wary of being seen with either of them after the political chaos of recent weeks. Earth's governments had been in constant communication, trying to understand the implications of humanity's newly revealed potential. "Your people really believe we're that dangerous?" James asked. "Not dangerous," Lady Red corrected. "Transformative. Your adaptability, your potential for change. It threatens the order we've maintained for millennia." She moved closer to him. "But that's exactly why I can't leave. Not now." James felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. "What are you saying?" "I'm proposing a formal union," she said directly. "Not just diplomatic, but personal. A joining of our species through legitimate channels." "Marriage," James said, the word feeling strange in this context. "More than that, a genetic partnership. My people would be forced to acknowledge it under our oldest laws." Her skin rippled with determination. "It would give humanity protection under Dominion law, while you continue to develop." "And what would you get out of it?" Lady Red's laugh chimed softly. "Besides you," her expression grew serious, "a chance to be part of the most significant change in galactic history. The opportunity to help guide that change instead of fear it." James turned back to the nebula, his mind racing. The political fallout would be enormous. Yes, both our species would face serious opposition. Yes, we barely know each other. Lady Red moved to stand beside him again. "I know your genetic pattern better than anyone has ever known another being. I can see your potential, your adaptability, your strength." She paused. "But you're right, you don't know me as well, which is why I'm giving you a choice." She produced a small crystal from her robes. "This contains everything. The complete history of my species, our true capabilities, our plans for the galaxy, all our secrets." She held it out to him. "Read it. Understand who and what I am. Then decide." James stared at the crystal. "Won't sharing these secrets get you executed?" "Probably," she said calmly. "But I believe the risk is worth it. The galaxy is changing, James. The old ways cannot hold forever. Someone has to take the first step towards something new." He took the crystal, feeling its warm pulse against his palm. "How long do I have to decide?" "Until the Dominion ship arrives tomorrow." She turned to leave, then paused. "James, whatever you choose, know that I've already made my choice. I choose change. I choose possibility. I choose you." As she left, James held the crystal up to the nebula light. Inside, he could see swirling patterns of data, the collected knowledge of one of the oldest civilizations in known space. His decision would affect not just his life, but potentially the future of human-alien relations forever. He had until tomorrow to choose: return to his simple diplomatic post and watch humanity stumble forward alone, or take a leap into something unprecedented, dangerous, and potentially wonderful. The nebula's light played across the crystal's surface, and James began to read. James spent the entire night absorbing the information from the crystal. Each revelation was more staggering than the last. In his private quarters, surrounded by holographic displays of ancient Dominion records, He finally understood the full scope of what Lady Red had shared. The Dominion hadn't just been watching humanity. They'd been studying Earth since before humans had mastered fire. Their hidden satellites had recorded every major evolutionary leap, every survival against impossible odds, every moment where humanity should have gone extinct, but somehow adapted instead. "Computer, show the extinction event comparison again," James commanded. The air filled with data streams showing various species' responses to catastrophic events. While other species had rigid adaptation patterns, humanity's showed wild variations. Where others died out, humans changed. Where others fled, humans found ways to survive. He found records of Dominion scientists arguing over humanity's unusual genetic structure. Some claimed it was impossible, that no species could be so adaptable without showing signs of instability. Others insisted that humanity must have been engineered by some ancient race. But the truth was even stranger. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Tom, looking concerned. "The Dominion ship just entered the system," his supervisor said. "You've got about 2 hours." He looked at the floating displays. "Find what you were looking for." "More than that," James replied, gesturing at the data. "Did you know that humans are the only known species whose genetic structure actually becomes more stable under stress? Every time we should have died out, our DNA found new ways to adapt." Tom whistled. "That explains a few things about our history." "The Dominion has been debating what to do about us for decades," James continued. "Some wanted to destroy us before we became too powerful. Others wanted to guide our development. But they couldn't agree because we kept defying their predictions." He pulled up another display showing human genetic patterns. "Look at this. When they first started watching us, they estimated it would take humanity 50,000 years to achieve spaceflight. We did it in less than a century after discovering powered flight." "And that scared them," Tom guessed. "Terrified them," James corrected. "Because their genetic site showed them something else too. We're still evolving. Most species reach a plateau, but humanity just keeps changing." The displays shifted to show future projections. The patterns were beautiful and complex, showing possibilities that even the Dominion's best scientists couldn't fully comprehend. "Lady Red wasn't just being romantic when she chose me," James said quietly. "She's trying to save her people from their own fear. If we form an alliance now, peacefully, it prevents the war that some of her people want." Tom looked grim. "And if you refuse? Then humanity continues developing alone. The Dominion continues watching in fear, and eventually," James gestured at a probability map showing various potential conflicts. "That's quite a choice they've dumped on you," Tom said. "Not really." James started shutting down the displays. "The choice was made the moment Lady Red decided to trust me with the truth." He picked up the crystal. "Her people have spent 50,000 years guiding other species, helping them develop safely. Now they've found a species that develops faster than they can guide, and it terrifies them. Except Lady Red. She sees what they're all too afraid to see," James said. "That fighting change is pointless. The only real choice is whether to embrace it or be destroyed by it." The station's announcement system crackled. "Attention. Dominion vessel, Light of Ages, will dock in 90 minutes. All diplomatic personnel please prepare for arrival ceremonies." James straightened his uniform. "I should go. Lady Red will be waiting." "You're sure about this?" Tom asked. "For the first time since this all started, yes." James smiled. "It's time for humanity to take its place in the galaxy. Not as students or servants, but as equals. Maybe even as teachers." He headed for the door, then paused. "Tom, thank you for standing by me through all this." "Just doing my job," Tom said. "Now go make history." James nodded and stepped out into the corridor, ready to embrace whatever change was coming. 1 year after the events on Unity Station, James stood in the Grand Hall of the Terran Alliance headquarters on Earth. The massive chamber was filled with representatives from every major spacefaring civilization. gathered to witness something unprecedented. Lady Red stood beside him, her skin shimmering with patterns of joy. She was no longer a Dominion noble. She had given up that title. But she carried herself with even greater dignity now. Together, they faced the assembled delegates as the first officially recognized human Dominion pair. The genetic research agreement is now open to all member species, the Alliance president announced. Under the joint supervision of human and Dominion scientists, we will explore the possibilities that Lady Red first recognized in humanity. James watched the faces in the crowd. The fear from a year ago had largely given way to curiosity and excitement. The first studies had proven Lady Red right. Human adaptability was unlike anything seen before in the galaxy. Furthermore, the president continued, the Stellar Dominion has agreed to share their genetic site technology with humanity, marking the first time in their history they have voluntarily shared this capability. Murmurs ran through the crowd. Even now, months after the initial announcement, the significance of this decision still shocked many. Shell, who had become an unexpected ally, clicked his mandibles in approval from his seat in the front row. This is only the beginning. Lady Red addressed the gathering, her translator conveying the music in her voice. Already, we see new possibilities. Human scientists, working with their adaptive intuition, have found applications for our technology that we never imagined. Together, we are becoming something greater than either of our species could be alone. James stepped forward to add his own words. A year ago, I was a junior diplomat on a space station, trying not to make mistakes. Today, I stand here as living proof that the greatest advances come not from fear of change, but from embracing it. He gestured to the huge display behind them, showing the intricate dance of human and Dominion DNA patterns merging to create new possibilities. The sight still filled him with wonder. Our union was just the first step. Lady Red continued. Already, 12 more human Dominion pairs have been recognized, each bringing new insights, new possibilities. The president raised her hands for attention. And now, the announcement you've all been waiting for. The first joint human Dominion space exploration fleet will launch next month. Using our adaptability and their experience, we will push further into the unknown than either of our species has gone before. Applause filled the chamber, some genuine, some diplomatic, but all acknowledging the historic moment. James saw several species that had once called humans primitive now leaning forward with keen interest. After the ceremony, James and Lady Red walked in the gardens outside the headquarters. Earth's sun was setting, painting the sky in colors that made her skin shimmer in response. Having any regrets? He asked her, though he already knew the answer. She laughed that shining laugh he'd grown to love. Only that we didn't do this sooner. The Dominion spent so long believing we had to guide and control other species. We never considered we might need to learn from them instead. And now? Now the galaxy is changing faster than anyone predicted. Some fear it, but I see the patterns. She turned to face him. Humanity's gift for adaptation is spreading. Other species are learning from you, changing in ways they never did before. It's like you're teaching the galaxy how to evolve. James took her hand, feeling the slight tingle where their different biologies met. So what's next for us? Lady Red pointed to the first stars appearing in the darkening sky. Out there, the exploration fleet needs experienced diplomats who understand both sides. Someone who can help bridge the gap between what humanity is becoming and what the galaxy has always been. Sounds like quite an adventure, James said. That's why I chose you, remember? Her golden eyes sparkled. I saw not just what you are, but what you could become, what we could become together. Above them, the stars brightened as Earth's sun set, calling them toward their next great adventure in a galaxy that was changing more rapidly than anyone had ever imagined possible.